Welcome to another episode of Vital Questions. As always, I'm your host, Che Guerrero, here with
La co-host.
Hey, la co-host. That's right, week 7. I didn't say 7 up top, but it's lucky number 7 this week.
How are you feeling? Since you always ask me how I'm feeling.
I am feeling honestly, we're recording now. I'm feeling uh just discombobulated because things keep moving so fast
Mhm.
and trying to stay on top of what is happening. There's this great TikToker, his name is Aaron Parnas, and he did a TikTok because people know him as the guy who always goes breaking news, the Trump administration, and he just like straight up just gives you the news like straight up.
Mhm.
But he does so many videos a day that people are always like breaking news, breaking news, breaking news, like hearing his voice. And he made a video going, breaking news, breaking news. You don't think I'm tired of saying breaking news? You don't think I'm tired of telling you that there's news that's always breaking? You don't think I want to just take a day off and just sit at home, but I can't because every moment
Poor guy.
there is breaking news. And that is, I felt that burnout today. It's
Yeah.
okay to feel your burnout. I felt
Yeah.
my burnout hard today.
Yeah, and what is it? Rest is a form of resistance as well.
That's right.
Where you have to take care of yourself. You can't, be in the struggle and in the good fight, as they say, without taking care of yourself first, for sure.
Yeah. And, every week we always talk about the mental exhaustion that is
Mhm.
this. And this is actually where we're going to take a step back this week.
Mhm.
And we're not just going to go through news story
The
after news
terrible news
story.
stories.
Right. We really decided here at Vital Question to ask a question
Mhm.
and try in this episode to figure out if we can answer that question.
Yeah, and the question is, how
How dumb
dumb can
can
they
they
make
make
us?
us? That is exactly what is sort of my question, because this is going to revolve around all of their attacks against education, higher learning, and really just going after the perception of reality, if we could really go that far.
Yeah, I mean it's the strongest tool that they have, right? Like when we started out this show and this programming on episode 1 when we are still trying to figure out, what is the goal of this and what is this going to look like. We said one of our main goals is to try to help the misinformation, disinformation that's going around.
Mhm.
And because that is one of the strongest tactics that the right is using, because they're making everyone question on, their constituency question what is reality, and essentially relying on people to not question them, to
Yeah.
not think twice of what they're hearing their leadership say.
Yeah.
Which fortunately on our side we tend to question things and actually look things up and not necessarily just go off of what they're saying.
Yeah.
So
And I don't know if I've already mentioned this last week, but people online have been telling me that I have Trump derangement syndrome.
Mhm.
I told you this
I
before?
think so.
So if you haven't seen this before, people on the right are saying that if you oppose Trump, or
Mhm.
you're calling out all the atrocities and all the way he's breaking the Constitution, and everything that he's doing wrong, then you have a mental health problem because you have Trump derangement syndrome. You just think he's the worst person in the world, and that you are not seeing the world for the reality that you're going crazy.
So it's basically the like F boy gaslighting, oh, you're going crazy
Yes.
to the chick, right? Like
Yeah.
whenever a woman has a thought of like, oh, you did this. No, you're just going
You're going
crazy.
crazy.
You're just you're imagining stuff when you're calling out reality. Like again, ladies, we don't see this. Like,
Trump is the ultimate gaslighter.
and I keep trying to like get through to this other side. So I'm talking to these Republican ladies, like, yeah, I don't see this. You don't see the
Yeah.
gaslighting. You don't see them being like, yeah, that's made up. That's made up. All these people being like shipped off, that's made up.
That's made up.
Everyone losing their benefits left and right, that's made up.
Up.
The fact that you can't afford groceries, that's made up. All of it, just
All
made up.
That
was good.
That was good. We did
that
not
was
plan
nice.
that. We
That
did
was
not plan
organic.
that. That was organic. I think we're getting there. I think we're getting there. No, but it is, I don't know what exactly the disorder, I'm using the very quote, was used against enslaved people.
Yeah.
That if they wanted to actually escape slavery,
Yeah.
there were, again, air quotes, scientists, these pseudoscience, that tried to prove that any enslaved person who tried to escape enslavement had a mental health disorder.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, actually,
So
just
that's where they have us at again.
of course, and if it's not you're crazy, it's just withholding information from you
Mhm,
or your access to information, right? Like
mhm.
that, as we know, or those that actually know real history know that education and the ability to read and all of that was very intentionally withheld from slaves, right?
Yeah.
Because they knew, and the whole adage, education is power,
Mhm.
exists for a
Exists
reason.
for a reason.
Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, so no, so I mean, kind of piggybacking off of that, I think starting out, we want to take a step back, and a lot of people are comparing the current administration to a certain other regime back in the
Yeah.
day, in Nazi Germany.
Yeah.
And again, a lot of people will disregard it and say that, oh no, that again, just that's made up, right? Like
Yeah. That's made up.
that's made up. The left is just making stuff up. Okay, cool. Have y'all ever looked it up? Have we ever questioned, oh, why is there a comparison being made? Let's just look up historically.
Yeah. And listen, I know, and this is like, we're gonna get into all this, but this is part of like how dumb can they make us,
Right.
because they want to erase these kinds of things.
Yeah, they want to erase our access to historical
Yeah.
information, or they want to call into question what actually is real history.
Hmm.
And history that has been taught for, however long,
Hmm.
that has been, studied by all of this is very established
Hmm.
information is now being questioned and being told that it's all made up.
That's all made up.
Yeah. Um so
And this is no. I listen. I don't mean to. I know we're trying to jump into the first article that we have pulled out, trying to answer that question: how dumb can they make us? But this also, yeah. Let's just go into the article. I kind of lost my train of thought. I was gonna sound very smart or whatever for a second there, but I lost it. Scroll up to the top of the page. I want to show these people. So the first thing we're gonna bring up right now is an article from. This is from the BBC.
yeah, this is BBC.
This is from the BBC right now, and it's talking about how Nazi Germany stayed in power, and also how they crushed the opposition, how they were able to just you know be in power in this
Mhm.
way. And people think that it can never happen in the U.S., but let's take a little piece of take a little note from history right here, and start off. Go up real quick, because there was something that I wanted to. So the first thing that it says right here, and one of the first, if you're listening to this and not watching at home, is an agreement between the Nazis and the Pope, that the Catholic Church in Germany will be protected. In return, the church would stay out of political matters and not criticize the Nazis. So this is one of their ways to warp the church to not
Mhm.
criticize them, so then they can stay safe.
Right. So then thereby limiting the information that's being shared.
Yeah. Now, I don't know if you know this, but the Pope just died.
Yeah.
Did you know that?
R.I.P.
R.I.P. Pope Francis.
Yeah.
Uh, you know, as always, pockets of, he could have done better with this, done
Totally,
better
of
with that.
course.
But the
In
man,
terms of right, in terms of historical popes,
yeah,
he was progressive for all intents and
progressive.
purposes, definitely advocated for marginalized rights, right? Whether it
Exactly.
was homeless, whether it was less advantaged, whether it was the LGBTQ
Hmm.
community, like he did make an effort in again being conscious of the context that we're talking
Yeah.
about. He did make strides for the different communities.
Yeah. And, it wasn't until I saw this article about, the way that Nazi Germany, worked with the church, and the church capitulated working with the Pope and all that stuff, that I didn't take into account really how much Republicans, right wingers of the world are going to play the political religious game to try and get a right wing pope on, to get a right wing pope.
Yeah.
Because I just, this pope was very progressive, and this pope was, washing the feet of
Hmm.
homeless people,
Yeah.
saying that we need to get back to the community. Did you know that even his funeral has been greatly scaled back compared to other popes,
Oh well.
because he wants, even in death, for humility
Yeah.
and taking care of others to still be the purpose.
Right. I'm sure it's that we can use that money for other things. Yeah.
Exactly. And right wingers around the world have a pro Trump cardinal that they really want to push to be the next pope. Because if you can get the United States to be this fascist right-wing government and get the backing of the Pope, you can very clearly see what could rise if you're watching on YouTube.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And again, I mean, not to state the obvious, but separation of church and state is supposed to be a
it's
thing.
supposed to
Yeah.
be a thing.
Like I don't care how religious you are, it's supposed to be a thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's not supposed to be uh, our, forefathers and all the things like set it up like that intentionally.
Yeah.
It's
Hey, if you can hear the dog in the background, listen, we live in a neighborhood where there are animals.
there are
So you're gonna hear the
animals.
puppies in the back. We love animals. We love dogs here. You know what I mean? That is the only thing that keeps us sane is seeing a puppy in the street and being like, "Can we pet your dog?" You want to feel happy for a second? Just ask a stranger if you could pet their dog.
Yeah, please ask them first. Don't just go approach. Anyways, but yeah, so obviously the relationship that Nazi Germany had with the Catholic Church at the time was very influential, and we see it already currently with this administration, right? The intense Catholicism and religious aspects with the way they speak and them trying to introduce religion in public schools and the whole religion is coming back to America and da da da, like all
Mhm.
that stuff. Yeah, we see it being done left and right. So I
Right.
think the comparison is pretty obvious.
Yeah, and especially, I mean, it is chilling that Trump just starting his second term is when the Pope dies. And we were saying this, we're like, really? Really? God? You have two old men who are leaders in this world, and you take out the one who serves you. I mean, God, I'm saying God did God's thing, but God could have, done a little more. That's all I'm saying.
God could have
The
chosen.
co-host is looking at me right now like, how dare you? I'm saying natural causes, a life coming to an end when it's supposed to. It's wild that the Pope did it first. That's all I'm saying. That is wild. That is wild.
Agreed, and it's unfortunate. And rest in peace, Pope.
Rest in peace, Pope.
So, moving on to the other prong that this BBC article highlights is controlling German youth, right? It was this ideology to brainwash the masses into believing that the Nazi way of life was the best way of life. And that not started, but part of that was controlling education and what was being taught in schools. And it went, reading off of here, teachers and university lecturers had to join the National Socialist Teachers League. This questioned their suitability to teach. They were forced to teach a very specific curriculum. Anti-Nazi and Jewish teachers were sacked. Textbooks were rewritten to emphasize militarism as well as Nazi political and racial beliefs. School subjects were given a pro-Nazi bias. For example, history was taught to glorify Germany, and biology instructed that pure Germans were superior. There was a strong emphasis on militarism in subjects such as math, where problems were presented in terms of the army or war.
I mean, the same thing that you see that's happening here.
Yeah.
Teachers are being forced to follow a right-wing agenda.
Yeah.
Well,
we already see the different executive orders that this administration has put out, right? Attacking, at least right now, it seems primarily universities, but there have been some recent executive orders that have been, signed into place. Also instructing lower kind of K to 12 schools on the type of curriculum that they can teach in their schools as well. And generally speaking, that's been left to the states to decide anyways. So like this amount of federal input on the nuance of what specifically is being taught at schools is unprecedented. Like it's not what's supposed to be happening. Like that's supposed to be left to the states.
Yeah.
So all this effort to stop quote unquote DE&I curriculum being taught in schools is for their own agenda.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's yeah.
No, I mean, that's they like I said, before, they want to reset to to the original white supremacy that this country was founded upon. That's why they want to any progress, especially in schools, like the same way that the Nazis did, was like, look, we're going to teach you that the white people are superior. And this is something that somebody said online, that what is crazy, I mean, all of it is crazy, but what is it just boggles the mind when you really think about it, that like the Nazis, these white supremacists, Trump, all that coalition is spewing something that even they themselves are not, saying that their way of life is the best. Like Trump is like, you have to be religious and you have to be a family person. Trump didn't even go to church on Easter Sunday. He was golfing, and he's cheated on every single wife that he's had.
Right.
Hitler was like, blonde hair, blue eyes are the best people. The dude had brown hair, brown eyes, and was short. Like, it's just crazy. Well, not short. He was like average height. But I mean, he's not these. But even it's just crazy how these people sell this ideology, something that they themselves don't live up to.
They themselves don't adhere to. And like, that's what I've always said. I'm like, in the same way that you wouldn't go to a dentist with some messed up teeth. And you wouldn't go to a doctor that's
smoking right in front of you,
smoking cigarettes on a regular.
Right in front of
Why
you.
would you be listening to a man who doesn't adhere to his own standards? You know that. You know that. You know that he doesn't. And again, this is going on to his supporters. Like, I genuinely mean this. It comes, like, for me, it really comes from a place of trying to educate people. Like, this is real. Like, this is, I know in your heads, and I know that in your surroundings, you're being told that this is not happening. You're being told that everyone's crazy on this side. You're being told that we're brainwashed and all that stuff. But for the sake of literally everyone in this country, this is real.
Yeah. And what did just real quick before we move on to the next thing, what did they say about citizenship? How the Nazis treated citizenship?
Yeah. So
oh wait, real quick, let's go on that woman part, because
that's what I wanted to get to before
let's
you
do that.
wanted to. So let me.
I'm sorry, I just didn't see how we're scrolling. Listen,
I was getting to it.
Let's go. Teach me. I'm sitting back. I'm listening. Tell me about the women.
Anyways, there's a section here talking about just more social aspects. And there's a couple of other points that talk about militarism and, trying to teach the youth physical skills. But the last bullet here in this section, quote, girls groups stress the importance of a high birth rate and how to be a quote unquote good wife. So, i.e., the quote unquote trad wife trend that's happening now.
Yeah.
I didn't, these kids.
What is it? Is it that women
trad means traditional wife?
Oh, trad.
Yeah.
I thought it was saying trap. I was like,
no,
what's
trad wife. Yeah, I recently found out about it.
The trads with the chads and all that.
Yeah, so then girls will wear like little 1950s, I think, those really floofy dresses, which they're cute.
With no bank accounts.
No, right.
No rights.
It's the whole thing of like, oh, this was the best way of life. And listen, if you've chosen to be a stay-at-home mom or wife, do your thing. There's nothing wrong with that, but you at least have that choice and you've chosen that life. Great. But it's the ability to have the choice that we're talking about here. What's essentially is being pushed by our current administration is that idea. We saw it as of, what was it, yesterday, day before, that the White House put out that message of, hey, women, have more babies, have more homegrown babies.
Yeah, homegrown.
Yeah.
And what was it here? Hold on, if you scroll down, it said that, right, just that they were offering 1,000, right?
Yeah.
Check this out. This is so wild when I saw this.
Yeah. So it goes on to say the law for the encouragement of marriage gave newlywed couples a loan of 1,000 marks, which I recently found out was a currency. And allowed them. I don't know all the things.
1,000 marks, like you get 1,000. Yeah, not 1,000 dudes named Mark.
I knew. I asked if it was currency. I was like, that makes no sense. Anyways, 1,000 marks, and allowed them to keep 250 marks for each child they had. Mothers who had more than 8 children were given a gold medal. Unmarried women could volunteer to have a baby for an Aryan member of the Soviet Union.
No, SS.
What is Soviet?
It's like secret. It's like their own like secret police kind of thing.
Oh,
yeah.
We don't cut that out.
No.
Yes, we are.
I don't know. I don't want to cut her out. No, it's a secret. I don't. SS. What you thought it was?
I thought Soviet Union or something.
No. Listen, all these SS. I get it. Soviet Union. All these people just have their own little tags. There's too many acronyms. There's the white people using way too many acronyms to try and confuse people of color. There's a whole thing around that, right?
No, I did not know.
Oh, there is a whole thing around all these different acronyms that it's just meant to be confusing. What's it stand for?
Oh, no wonder everyone keeps saying SS, because it's like some
Schutzstaffel.
It's some German word.
Schutzstaffel, yeah. So SS Schutzstaffel. Look, we just learned that.
Schutzstaffel.
You were gonna bring that up? We're gonna bring it up.
Yeah.
Oh, that's not it. But don't worry about it. But yeah, that's what it stands for. Schutzstaffel. SS. Okay. There we go. We got that one. So going back real quick, because we lost our train of thought there for a second. All staying in. Listen. So you saw how they were paying people to get married, have kids, all that stuff. Trump floated around the idea of giving women $5,000 for each baby that they have, or for a baby. Well, I'm
I
not
need to
sure.
look it up because
I'm
you were
not
the one that said
sure.
that.
I'm not sure if he's trying to buy babies from people, or if he's actually going to give them $5,000. We're gonna look this up because this is, and somebody tweeted this, which it was amazing. Somebody goes, "Oh, Trump is offering people $5,000. It's a baby bonus, but there's no maternity leave, no child care. Babysitters are super expensive. You know what I mean? There's
Yeah.
all these things that
Yeah, they didn't
prohibit."
provide any actual, yeah, so I just looked it up. So it is $5,000 that they're looking to
Yeah,
provide as a quote unquote baby bonus.
baby bonus.
So again, taking a page off of,
A one-time payment.
yeah, off of the Nazi regime, because cool, $5,000 does not take care of a baby and
No.
is financially at all.
Uh-uh.
At best, you got a couple of diapers from that, and then you're good. Like, no.
You know what's crazy? Every time I hear about like Trump trying to float around money, it's always $5,000. Like,
Oh, right.
if you wanted to know how much would it cost to buy off a person, it seems like $5,000 is the average person. That's how much you could buy them off for.
At least in his book, yeah.
At least in his book, the average person can be bought off for $5,000,
Yeah.
because they're taking away your right as a woman to vote, to make choices with your body, all, just ripping away so many of the rights that women have fought so hard for.
Mhm.
And Trump's like, I'll give you $5,000 if you shut your mouth.
Mhm. Yeah.
And just keep popping them out.
But again, I don't think that people often see the correlations between the two eras, right? And what's happening now and what happened in Germany. And that's why people keep bringing this up. So part of the effort of this episode is to show the direct correlation between the two, because sometimes people don't see it. A lot of people will see that and think it's hysterical and like, oh, that's ridiculous. Okay. And keep on with their day, not recognizing they're taking pages out of history.
Yeah.
They're doing the same thing.
Yeah.
And we can go on to the next point where, in the persecution of Jewish people and other groups, going back to this BBC article, they go on to say the Nazis believed that only Germans could be citizens.
Only Germans could be citizens.
And that non-Germans should not have any claim to the rights of citizenship. The Nazi racial philosophy taught that some races were, quote, Untermensch, German for subhuman. Many scientists at this time believed that people with disabilities or social problems were genetically less human, and that their genes needed to be eliminated from the human gene pool. So just this week, there were those comments that Trump made about people with autism. Or not Trump, sorry, that RFK made with people with autism. And basically alluding to this kind of energy that they need to be eradicated. That this is
They need to be put on a list.
That this problem needs to be fixed. That this is an issue to address. It's based. He tries to make it seem like you can catch it. Like it's like,
wow. You know what's crazy? Wow. I just got hella sad because the shift is happening. That poem, I didn't stand up for the lawyers because I'm not a lawyer. I didn't stand up for the journalists because I'm not a journalist. And then when they came for me, nobody stood up for me.
Yeah.
Like the way Trump and the administration have just been able to demonize immigrants. They recently tweeted this thing, and I talked about it, that they put up this picture that it's like you cross the border. They said you join a gang, but really, they're labeling anybody who crossed the border without authorization a gang member. Due process, deport you. And seeing the constant dehumanization of the immigrant community, and seeing how it has seeped into people being a lot more open to the idea of somebody being hurt just because they're undocumented. And now the same rhetoric starting with people with autism.
Yeah, people with just disabilities generally.
Saying they can never hold down a job, they can never love, they can never. It's like, bro, you never seen Love on the Spectrum? You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Those people are.
And actually, the stars from that show spoke out about that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I saw a clip about that today, and making it very clear that they are fully functioning members of society. Like, they are obviously able to date. There's a whole show about that. They're obviously able to have experience real love and contribute to each other and the world. Like, it's so heartbreaking to have anyone in any kind of position of leadership to make those kinds of statements that again continue to promote problematic language.
Yeah.
And kind of going off of that, going back to the BBC article, it says the Nazis carried out a number of actions as a result of these beliefs, right? They tried to eliminate the Jewish people.
Mhm.
85% of Germany, Romani, and Sinti people were killed. Black people were sterilized. Patients with mental illnesses were killed. Physically disabled people and those with hereditary diseases were sterilized. Quote, antisocial people were sent to concentration camps.
Antisocial people?
Quote, antisocial people, that's what they call them. Included homosexual people, sex workers, Jehovah's Witnesses, alcoholics, pacifists, beggars, hooligans, and criminals. Hooligan sounds like it's just these 21-year-olds who just went out to party and got caught up in something. That's what hooligan sounds like.
Yeah,
to
those
me.
hooligans are gonna end up a CCOT. Like,
Probably,
you know what I mean?
but again, this kind of energy, right? What we read off.
Listen to this energy.
This-
Eerily.
Yeah.
Point by point, who they're going after. I mean, the BBC put up this bullet. When was this published?
When was this published? Hold on. Let's see.
Does it have a published date?
It does not.
It does not.
I definitely feel like what
Sorry.
you wear, you kind of embody.
Did it go
that.
back?
Hmm?
It went back?
Yeah, it went back.
Oh.
It's okay. Don't worry about it. Oh, there it goes.
Okay.
Okay. We'll just cut around that.
Yeah, okay. So let me see if it has a published date, maybe at the bottom. Nope, it doesn't have a published date, but yeah.
Yeah, but go back to that point real quick. Okay, so there is no published date right now. But
No.
we'll just go right back to it. But there's no published date on this, but it is amazing that this was written almost as how they're going for people.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? They're right away. Undocumented people just have people online so easily going. Undocumented people are subhuman,
Right.
who get absolutely none of the rights that are in the Constitution. And that, again, we've gone over this in previous shows. So go back and listen to our previous show.
Right.
It says any persons in the U.S. will not be deprived of the right to due process. Any persons.
Right.
But these people are willing to say, well, no, we only U.S. citizens have the right to any of this kind of due process. Only U.S. and then they're gonna then easily change it to only U.S. citizen with cognitive abilities are given these rights.
Right. It's all the caveats that start.
It's
Until it becomes only white
rich white men.
Yeah, rich white men actually.
Rich
Yeah,
white men, period.
It's not white women, y'all. Like it's not. You're included in DEI also, in case you didn't know.
You include in DEI, and let's
on that point. So kind of steering away from the history of it all. So that's the groundwork and comparative history that we wanted to lay out as we dive into the ways this administration is attacking education and access to information.
Yeah, and can I say something real quick? And when they say that Pete Hegseth and Donald Trump's one of their favorite books is Mein Kampf, you know what's crazy, when you hear of all these old white men who are like obsessed with World War II, I really thought that they were trying to study it so it wouldn't repeat, not so they could.
Yeah, not as an instruction manual.
That was what's wild about what's happening.
Yeah.
That it was like, oh, you love Mein Kampf because you want it again.
Yeah, that's actually very true, because whenever I've heard of like older people being really interested in war and all that stuff, I thought it was because they were invested in some kind of way and wanted to your point, avoid the atrocities ever. And meanwhile, they've been taking notes.
They've been taking notes and going, I know how I can go further.
Yeah, and as we just saw, right, so the Nazis were not a fan of diversity, and neither is this administration, as we've seen. Whether it's through executive orders, whether it's through social media tweets, or whatever the hell, whether it's through any kind of communication, this administration, through its deportation efforts, through its marketing, through all of its stuff, it's very obvious that they could care less about non-white people. And to the point where, as we saw the Nazis did, they're going after universities and education, and essentially trying to whitewash it all, right? They're essentially trying to have these different universities and colleges stop teaching Black history, just kind of entirely, because that's what everyone calls quote unquote critical race theory, even though it's literally just the history of African Americans in this country and just Black people.
The real history. No, it's history.
It's history.
The real history.
Yeah, it's history. It's not anything. And that's the thing, giving it the special title of quote unquote critical race theory, it's just further differentiating it from supposed quote unquote regular history. No, it's all history. If anything, it's actually significantly possibly more vital than the crap that we learn, because it actually tells you the real history of this country.
How is it that they can call real history critical race theory, but we can't call their white propaganda they feed in public schools bullshit? Why can't we just, I'm sorry, I'm not coming up with a fancier name than they can, critical race theory. How about white supremacist bullshit? Like, stop teaching these kids white supremacist bullshit at school. It doesn't serve them. It serves your purpose of white supremacy, but really you are creating a generation, and that's what Nazi Germany did by, you know, the Hitler Youth, and starting them young,
Right.
and because you know it already feels warped.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I think we've talked about this, like saying, oh, I wish things can go back to how they were before Trump.
Mm-hmm.
There is no going back.
Yeah, too much has happened at this point.
There is no, even if he leaves office, there is no resetting what it was. Now it's how do we move forward?
Because it's also shown, I think, a lot of people the truth of this country, right? Like, I know I've had a bunch of conversations, coming from really diverse spaces and growing up in really diverse spaces. I've had a lot of conversations with people who didn't grow up in those environments and grew up relatively privileged, and really go around as, I'm thinking of a particular like Black guy that I went to law school with, and he was like, yeah, I don't think affirmative action is necessary because I've never experienced racism. And I was like, cool. I now, as the white passing Latina, need to stand up and explain to this man that, like, dude, just because you haven't does not mean that other people haven't. And the fact that you are just completely erasing the history of your own ancestors is wild to me. But the fact that you're out here as an educated Black man had the audacity to say that affirmative action isn't necessary. No, you've been fortunate enough that you have not had the same cards dealt that a lot of other people have had to
And
deal
I'm
with.
sure even without him knowing, affirmative action has allowed people of color to get to the place where they're
Totally.
at. Even if you're like, even if it didn't say, hey, you were specifically hired because of affirmative action. No, but these things, these groundwork, even without you knowing, has led to success.
I can give you a perfect example from personal experience. Like, I did not grow up with anyone in my family being a lawyer. I am very much that story of the first in my family to pursue kind of any major postgraduate degree and become, whatever, right? So I didn't have any connections to the legal field. So I had to hustle and make that. And I had to find community, usually in affinity groups, usually in Black, Brown, Latino spaces, and incredible people along the way that have helped guide me in these corporate spaces that I've been a part of. I've been fortunate to have people kind of like tell me how to work these spaces, right? Like, how do you have a conversation with someone who grew up drastically different than you, right? Like, how do I connect with you? How do I know that I even need to connect with you to get across my career unless I'm actually told that? Versus these kids that have these connections that are being trained off the rip, right? Like, they're being taught, oh, as of high school, hey, so these are your top law schools. This is when you start studying for the LSAT. This is what you should look into. Hey, so and so is a judge. That's my best friend. I can get, like, that is an advantage that exists, right? And yes, that isn't every single white person. That isn't every single, for sure not, right? But like, advantages just exist by default because of socioeconomic structures that we don't have the time to get into in this conversation. But it is a bigger conversation that needs to continue to be had about the importance of affirmative action, of DE&I programs, to ensure that people have the right opportunities. Because what I keep telling people is that these policies, these programs came into place because people weren't giving people these opportunities, because they weren't allowing Black people into colleges, because they didn't give women the ability to speak, because they could care less about what a Latina like I have to say unless you were forced to care, right? That's why these programs were put into place. And as we've seen, when given the opportunity to eradicate them, there's a lot of people that are just dying to rip all of that apart in the way that we're seeing it now. So for everyone that's like, oh, it was entirely unnecessary, clearly it was necessary, when now we're seeing how this administration just wants to erase all of our histories entirely. So don't tell me that these programs aren't helping anyone or aren't actually trying to combat something, when we see what this administration is doing, and they're unfortunately representative of a good chunk of this country.
I mean, anytime the government is working overtime to take something away from you, double check what they're trying to take away,
Yeah.
because it
And double check why.
and double check why. And again, it's unbelievable to me
Mm-hmm.
that the amount of rights and and privileges that people are willing to give up because of a made up threat that Trump is created. The same thing going back with the Nazis. They, you know, I don't think I've told you this, but I heard the audiobook of Mein Kampf.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy who and the person who read the book said something very poignant in the beginning that I really appreciated the narrator saying. He goes, listen, everybody should actually listen to Mein Kampf, because it shows you how this maniac is able to warp reality. And he
Mm-hmm.
goes, and if you think that you're somebody that will read Mein Kampf and start to believe what he says, that he's so hypnotic, that's not what he is. He's not this hypnotic figure. Hitler is been mythologized. He was a moron who was a racist, a fascist, and he feared monger into getting power. And he put it down exactly how he does it.
Mhm.
And that's what that book is. That book is showing people how to fear monger and lie about people
And your way to power.
and create these global conspiracy theories that make people believe at the end of the day you're the hero.
Yeah.
And that's not the case.
Yeah.
Immigrants, undocumented people are not your boogeymen. Trump has created these boogeymen to take away your right.
Yeah, and it's true. Like I've seen so many clips of people being interviewed at rallies and all that, and a lot of interviewers asking them, "Have you personally had any negative experience with an immigrant?" Across the board, it's always no.
No.
It's always no. And if I think I might have mentioned this maybe in the last episode, I forget when, but like if if there was legit an invasion, how he
Mhm.
likes to frame it, and if it was as terrible as he'd like to make it, at least 1 out of 5 people would have a story.
Right.
At least 1 out of 5 people would be personally affected if it was like this bad. If he was trying to make it seem like, oh, we can't step out because they're everywhere and they're killing and they're raping and then we would not be able to step out. If it was actually that terrible, you all would see it.
Yeah.
You all would have some personal experiences, and don't start calling out the like the couple of random things that have happened where yes, the people that have raped and killed, and yes, terrible people. In the same way that there's terrible people in any demographic that has nothing to do with their status. They are not a criminal because of this. They just so happen to be a criminal in addition to being undocumented.
I mean,
Just so happen to be. That's what that means, actually. So the fact that all of these people have been led to believe that just by default, because you're an immigrant, you are a criminal, is insane to me. And it is very reminiscent of Nazi Germany.
Yeah.
And that's what everyone needs to come to terms with.
And going back real quick, we're talking about schools, and going back to if you're that stupid, you don't know your history. Sorry, it's not stupid. It's just that if you don't know your history.
Yeah, if you're ignorant, you just don't know.
You just don't know. You just believe. Like the fact that people are already, it's so hard to already start sometimes with people, because people have again, this is all about brainwashing. How dumb can you make people? People already believe that this land, when Europeans landed here, was vastly empty, and that white people were just like, okay, this is our land now, and because you indigenous people don't know how to take care of it.
Yeah.
When that wasn't the case at all. Indigenous people had created multiple systems to take care of this land. Actually, when settlers arrived here, they were actually surprised at how much food there was everywhere, because indigenous people had just planted food everywhere.
Right. And capitalism wasn't a thing, so they weren't trying to.
Right. I have like a joke where I'm like, white people think that they figured out how to make delivering food faster to you, because like, oh, look, it's farm to table. And I'm like, indigenous people had nature to mouth. Like, what are you talking about? Like, you still are doing too much.
Right. Too much process, bro.
Too much process. Nature mouth.
Right.
That's how it should work. But that's what it is. It's people not understanding the history that Europeans are actually the invading undocumented force that has taken over this land. And what they're doing is they're projecting on us what they did, when actually people from Latin America are only trying to come here to escape atrocities that the United States created, that Europe created, by destabilizing this whole side of the globe.
Right.
That people are still dealing with.
Yeah.
But none of that matters, because now the game is white people made up the rules. Anybody else breaks it, that's it, deported.
You get deported.
You get
forever.
deported.
Yeah, yeah. And again, that's why we've seen that it's also even the threat of deportation at this point. But like,
Let's put up the DEI. Let's put up the DEI real quick, because this has to do with people. They don't want people to know the history. They don't want people to know that the colleges specifically does a great job of teaching you the actual history. Because once you step out of high school, you see, like, we've gone this over many times, but we just pull up an article about Trump signing executive orders to try and rein in DEI in universities, right? And what I was trying to say is that this is where they are going from, people go from public schools where it's kind of easy to try and really put that America ideology, United States is the best kind of thing. But once you go to college doesn't and cannot operate like that. They have to teach you the real history. So once you start actually learning what they're calling DEI, learning actually that, hey, the United States was stolen from indigenous people and it has been built on white supremacy. And multiple times the Supreme Court has been used to, enslave people, and really learning what this country's about. They don't want that, because then they can't hold on to that mythology that the United States is this amazing thing.
Yeah. And it's just funny because they call these DEI programs, quote, ideological overreach and, quote, intellectual diversity on campus. Like, these are the issues that they're trying to address through these executive orders. And again, it's all just about not knowing real history, right? And if you don't know the real history of the atrocities that have happened in the past, you're less likely to be able to prevent them. And that's what they're banking on.
Exactly. And you had shown that Harvard is actually one of the few schools that is actually standing up to them.
Yeah.
Isn't that right? There
Yeah.
we have it right here.
So this NBC article, Harvard's president says the school will, quote, not compromise on its rights with the Trump admin. So our Harvard not only is not succumbing to the executive orders, but they're actually suing the Trump administration under First Amendment rights.
For billions.
Yeah, because basically the Trump administration, in the way that it's trying to do to several universities, and even honestly, even private companies, are trying to tell private companies they can't have DEI programs, right? Like, we see the whole Target boycott because of their complacency and going along with it and all that stuff, right? So
I think Levi Jeans just said that they're still going to have their DEI.
I think their board decided, and good on you, Levi Jeans. Good job, board.
You know what? I'm going to continue wearing jeans.
Yeah, except I'm going to buy them on sale because they're a little expensive, but it's all good. But yeah, so props to Harvard and Harvard's president for taking a stand against fascism, right? And recognizing, like, this is, and they say it, that it's not about left or right or politics or anything. This is literally about the sanctity of education and the ability to ensure that, especially private institutions like Harvard, that this is a private school. This isn't a public school that the federal government should have a say in it.
Yeah. Now, to talk about Harvard a little bit, it's $2.2 billion in federal funding that the government wants to freeze if it doesn't comply with its DEI removal orders. Now, Harvard has the luxury to be able to say, we still going to keep our programs. We're not going to do what you want. And we're going to take it to court to try and get our money anyways, because Harvard has over a $50 billion endowment.
Right.
An endowment is just money that they have on reserve from their past alums, giving them checks.
Well, not only that, but I also read in another article that after announcing their decision to not abide by the Trump administration's requirements and also to sue them, that they started getting significant more funding from alumni and significant more support.
Yeah,
so
that makes sense.
And the great part about this is that this alumni is educated, and a lot of educated people, if you look at the numbers, tend to be Democratic, tend to be liberal, because education teaches you a lot of these things. Education teaches you the dangers of fascism. Education teaches you the dangers of capitalism. Education teaches you the dangers of running a country like a business, like all of these uneducated people wanted this man to do. Every time I heard that, it was the most insane thing to me in the world. And what you're seeing now is someone running a business terribly.
Yeah.
Because who you put into power is someone that bankrupted several businesses.
We
So
won't-
at bare minimum, if you actually wanted someone to run the country like a business
Mhm.
successfully, maybe put someone who has been a successful CEO. Like at bare minimum, maybe put, you know who they should put? The guy
Again.
that does the CEO of Arizona, the
Iced
drinks.
tea, 99 cents.
My
Since
guy
we can
who
remember.
hasn't, yeah, because he apparently he actually is like legit, like in the world of CEOs, he actually is apparently like a really good person and like pays his employees well. There's a lot of like company loyalty because of,
You know how
Yeah.
I feel. I feel like there's no ethical CEO, but I understand what you're saying.
all right,
In the grand
we'll
scheme,
agree to disagree.
I understand. I understand what you're saying,
Okay.
but still, the homie can give back something.
We'll agree to disagree because I think he does give back some.
Okay.
And I think he gives equity in his company to his
Oh,
employees.
shoot.
And
You know what?
again, and that's my
My
point,
bad.
because you're assuming
My
that
bad.
everyone is adhering to certain standards. Again, I think,
We gotta look him up.
but again, I
Leave in
think
the comments. Let us know a little bit about who the Arizona iced tea dude is, and we'll
the
and we'll,
CEO.
and we'll maybe make another vital question like, who is the
CEO,
Arizona
right?
CEO?
And why is he so generous? But anyways, but yeah, so but I do think it is, Harvard is in a unique position and a
Mhm.
great one,
Mhm.
where they're fortunately able to ensure that they have a real fight in the game, right? Like they have the funds for it, because not only did they already have it, but then taking the stand has brought out a lot of support from their alumni and also non-alumni. The article that I read also said that some just supporters of the school because of what they're doing and what they're trying to stand for.
Yeah.
Because again, there's the people and the institutions and the entities that can take a stand against this administration and that are doing it. They're doing it on behalf of all of us. Like that's, Harvard is fighting for all of our abilities to have freedom of speech, right?
And education.
Yeah, and
an
education.
honest education.
Without
that you're paying hundreds of thousands. It should at least be a real one.
Right, exactly.
Then what are you? Listen, if you go to a college and they literally teach you propaganda and fakeness and all that, you should sue them to get your money back.
Agreed.
Because you didn't teach me that. I came here to learn the actual history. I am an 18-year-old, very impressionable person, and I'm coming in and you are teaching me this.
Yeah, and I mean the unfortunate part is that not every school is in Harvard's position.
That's
right?
what I'm saying. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there's we pulled up this NPR article back in mid-March that over 50 universities were under investigation as part of the anti-DEI efforts by this administration. Yeah. And obviously not everyone is a Harvard where they have all these extra funds. And unfortunately, there are some schools that, as we've already seen, have been complacent and just have removed a lot of curriculum, removed a lot of programs, not only at the school level, right? Just as a side note, I know a lot of law firms have done the same thing, which has been really heartbreaking to see as a lawyer. Candidly, as a side note, this goes out to every lawyer. We all took an oath, right? Our oath was to uphold the Constitution. First and foremost, right? It's a very similar oath that the Army takes. It's a very similar oath that the military takes, in that the first and foremost obligation is to uphold the Constitution. We see that it's being deteriorated, that it's in front of our own eyes. Everything that we learned in school, we all learned it. We know what we're talking about, is not happening.
It's not.
And it's falling apart. And we know the danger of, especially as people who have studied this so in depth, of not abiding by the rule of law, right? Like, yes, it was never a perfect system. Of course it wasn't. And yes, there was a lot of issues and a lot of things that we can still work on if the world wasn't imploding. But right now, in front of our very eyes, we have an administration and a president who is not listening to the Supreme Court, y'all. Like this is going out to all my lawyers, because I'm just like in shock.
Yeah.
And stunned at the blatant disregard for the rule of law. So for what I need law firms to understand is that by succumbing to this and by becoming complacent in this, you are completely destroying everything you were supposed to stand for. Everything.
The problem is, well, a lot of problems, and I'm sorry, these politicians, a lot of them aren't lawyers.
Yeah, and that's why they should not be they should not be in.
There should be some criteria to be a politician.
Agreed. And up until not that long ago, there kind of was, right? Like, I think for me, the first semblance of that was like Arnold Schwarzenegger when he became governor or whatever.
Well,
Like
Ronald Reagan was a movie star as well, so that's kind of
and he
been
had no like political.
no, not before that, not too much. And he was one of the first, like, we can get a good looking like white dude from TV that a lot of people recognize and put some money behind him and get him elected.
Yeah.
Like for judges,
Yeah.
those positions you are required to be a lawyer.
You have to be a minimum of like 10 years for most of them. Like
Supreme Court.
You have to be elected and appointed into that position.
Sheriffs, you have to be a police officer for a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
But like something like the president,
yeah,
like Trump had no experience, like just because he was like a business dude, but absolutely nothing in politics before.
Yeah, there has to be some kind of criteria for. I mean, but then that's a double-edged sword.
That's a double-edged sword.
Because then we look at people, like people,
like Tim Kaine, who was like a coach,
right? Yeah,
and he's not into politics,
right? So there is a balance, but it's hard to find what that balance needs to be.
Yeah. But maybe at least some basic knowledge of the Constitution.
Yeah.
And let's hit them with the last thing that the organization is trying to do right now. And this is like, they're going after the kids at school, they're going after colleges, and then they're trying to warp reality by going after our schools and our museums
and libraries.
Excuse me.
Our libraries and museums.
Excuse me. Our libraries and museums. So Doge is cutting funding for libraries.
Yeah, for libraries and museums and just institutions kind of left and right.
Yeah.
And again, this is another kind of tried and true tactic by this type of regime and this type of administration, because if you ultimately privatize access to books and information and education to the point where there's no free public libraries anymore.
Yes,
and
Barnes and Noble is the only way you can get books.
Right, and now you have to pay in order. So then again, we're leaving the people that are in lower socioeconomic status completely unable to read or to have access to any of this, right? And we're talking about a country, in case people didn't know, our country, there's people in this country who don't have access to regular internet.
Yeah.
There's people in this country.
They go to library for that.
They aren't able to afford a computer at home. And if that sounds crazy to you, then guess what? You've lived a very privileged life, because there's a lot of people in this country that are struggling.
Yeah.
And ironically, it tends to be in states that voted for this man.
Yeah.
And not recognizing the damage, the very intentional damage that is being done to withhold information to ensure that, as we, kind of saw from what he said before, where he loves the poorly educated, right? And we're seeing it kind of true in this current administration, even more so than the first one, because this attack on education and information is so blatant.
Yeah.
Stop researching with chat.
We're going to pull this up real quick. I think you heard that a little bit, but we're going to pull this up real quick. No, it's okay. We're still running through the whole system, because, we're probably going to leave. Probably going to leave not too long after this, because people need to see just exactly how he feels about you.
Okay. So
it's an old clip, but it's still worth seeing from time to time.
And it's the clip that I think maybe some people haven't seen it, but a lot of people have quoted it, because he did make a point to say that I love the poorly educated, right? So this is in Nevada. And we'll just hear a little bit about it.
We won with young. We won with old. We won with highly educated. We won with poorly educated. I love the poorly educated.
So that's the clip that everyone talks about. Because I mean, and listen, we know that he tends to just say things to say things. And we know 90% of the stuff that he says is incomprehensible and has absolutely no value. So sure, if you want to chalk it up to that, because I always try to think of the counter argument to everything, I'm sure people are going to be like, he's just being silly. You know how he is. Well, in the same way that you thought he was actually going to go after only criminals and not after innocent people, and we realized that was a lie. In the same way that you thought he was going to try to safeguard women's rights, even though the SAVE Act is trying to completely dismantle a lot of women's voting rights, and obviously that was a lie. In the same way that you thought, his stance on abortion won't be that bad, but we're seeing how many women die this year alone just because of the anti-abortion.
And we're not actually seeing everything, because it's not reporting. Texas is not reporting on the federal HHS. Human services are not reporting on it.
Correct. So if you don't want to believe us on this point, that is your decision and your choice. But again, the writing is on the wall.
Yeah.
So whether it's libraries, whether it's book banning, right? Like, just to kind of save time, we haven't gone into it, but if you look at the list of books that are being banned, right? And I did, one of the top ones is called 19 Minutes by Jodi Picoult. Pardons
Mhm.
for the
Mhm.
sorry for the mispronunciation, I'm sure. But basically, this novel follows the quote unfolding of a school shooting, including the events leading up to the incident and the aftermath of that incident.
Mm.
Another book on the list is The Handmaid's Tale, as a lot of people are aware of it because of the show. Ideally, you read the book also. But as a lot of us know, that as the summary says, explores themes of powerless women in patriarchal
I've seen The
society,
Handmaid's Tale.
loss of female agency, individuality, suppression of reproductive rights, and the various means by which women resist and try to gain individuality and independence. Now, this is what this administration would like to ban. These are the types of content, right? So, why would someone care to ban a book about school shootings when school shootings happen here all the time?
Mhm.
Why would you want to ban a book that's deep diving into maybe the reasons and the repercussions of that?
Mhm.
Because maybe you don't want your population to start questioning, why are school shootings
Mhm.
happening, and hey, maybe we should actually try to do something about it.
Yeah.
Because clearly the fact that they're happening is not
Yeah.
causing enough ruckus, because clearly they keep on happening, and we don't care about kids when they're in school, but we care about them when they're not even born yet, right? So maybe this administration is questioning whether or not they want people to have access to that kind of information. And maybe you want to not have Handmaid's Tale readily available because maybe you don't want people to see the writing on the wall of this current situation, and maybe you don't want people to figure out how to avoid it.
No, oh, absolutely. You
But
don't want to
again, this
see.
is all
You don't want to see the
speculation.
Gilead that's coming. You
Correct.
don't want to see the. We're taking it back to 1776. They don't want you to see all that they're taking it back to, because
Yeah.
if you have the roadmap, that's the thing. I think we started with this. I think it's a perfect way to also end it. They want to take away your history, your knowledge of everything that has been, because if you don't know where you came from, it's very difficult to know where you're going.
Yeah.
And that is their plan. That's why they
Or to control where you're going.
that's you can't control where you're going. That's why they love, their main thing is to erase your history, the history, what's happened. So now they can come in and make you feel like you're crazy,
Yeah.
that something's happening,
Right.
that you're like, there's no president. There is president for this.
Because
But you've taken away my ability to be able to look it up.
Yeah, and because that's their go-to response. It's always you're crazy. Oh, it's always you're making stuff up. If you see this administration in interviews in whatever, their instant go-to is deflect and deny. That's all. That's what they love to do. So I know we are out of time.
Do not let these people take away. Listen, read. I urge people. It's the one part of me that I'm a little arrogant about, is that I love reading every day. Please read a book every day. Do not let these people take away your ability to think for yourself and to know what's happening. Do not let them take away your ability to think.
Actually, on that note, I also saw this administration is trying to push the use of AI in schools and try to teach kids how to use AI and all of that. And I know that you're a big proponent of AI and think it's cool and all that stuff. We've had different conversations. The problem with that I want to highlight for everyone is that essentially just makes us more stupid, right? The more we rely on technology to do the work for us, the less we're able to do it ourselves, right? And a perfect example is my inability to get anywhere without GPS. I have no sense of direction at all, because no matter where I'm going, I'm always putting it in a GPS, usually to avoid traffic. But because of that, I tend to not know where I'm going without it. And pushing AI and this convenience so much, again, I bring this question up for everybody to consider. Maybe they're trying to make the situation perfect for their little tech friends to have all these products and services that you are completely dependent on in the long run. If you become completely inept on cooking, for example, and all of a sudden you don't know how to cook without AI, or you don't know how to, I don't know, bathe yourself with, like, thinking of egregious situations, like it can become a Black Mirror situation. That's why Black Mirror is such a great show, because it's so on point.
Oh no, again, we're on it, and I love that now they're building like a whole world around the future technology, which like stories come in and out of it, and you're like, oh, this is how to be. But no, I'm with you. Like, I'm actually saddened that we've lost our abilities to just be able to look up at stars and be like, that's the Big Dipper, that's the Little Dipper, my house is south. You know what I mean? Like, but this is what it is, and please, do not let them do this to us. The question is, how dumb
Can they make us?
can they make us?
However,
as long as we let them.
exactly.
As
Yeah.
dumb as we let them. Hey, anything else, like host,
I have
before we
so
get out of
many
here?
things
We have
because
so many things.
because I also wanted to, like, again, look at the White House website. The Constitution isn't up there, y'all. They never put it back. I checked before. Like, I'm pretty sure they didn't put it back.
They didn't put it back.
All they put was a little excerpt of one section and then give you a little description of what the Constitution is and the purpose, but they don't have the text of it.
Wow.
They also didn't put back information on women's reproductive rights, of course. Surprise, surprise. They also didn't put back the Spanish version of information of the White House because this is all very intentional. And again, I can spend hours on hours talking about all the little nuances, whether it's the National Institute of Health limitations on grant funding, depending on if you use the word woman or if you use the word activist or progress or and all these like ridiculous like.
The co-host went down a deep dive of how they're lying to us, and I'm sorry that we didn't get to all of it.
No, but it's just it's really I really want everyone to just truly look into it and please educate yourselves because the administration is working overtime to make sure you don't. So
yeah. Oh, gosh. Hey, you know what? The co-host, that we're gonna end on that on the news. I'm not the news, but our vital question for this week: how dumb can it make us? Didn't we say we're gonna try and leave off on something happy?
Oh, right.
Something happy that's happened for the week.
Oh,
do you want to go first?
Sure.
You go.
I'm really happy about this puzzle.
Okay, cool. I'm glad you didn't steal mine.
Okay. I'm really happy about this puzzle.
Yeah.
Working on the Super Mario puzzle. Yeah. It's really relaxing.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Okay.
What's yours?
The sketch.
Oh, that's so funny. Well, I guess that's probably bad. It's just because the puzzle was today. That's
the puzzle was today, and it was really cool. There's a great puzzle, a great Mario puzzle going on. But like co-host and I, we got together, we met up, and we wrote a sketch. And I told the co-host, like, yo, we did a 1-minute short film.
Yeah.
We told a story in a minute. We had to write it, we had to film it, we had to edit it.
Yeah.
We had to come up with the jokes. We had to them, so really, like, it felt so great.
Mm-hmm.
And then what was the best? It was all the laughters. Thank you. If you haven't seen it yet, it's a sketch about the white guy who stole Christy Nome's purse, and all the things that are in it. And it was nice to bring joy to the world.
Yeah.
All the comments are all laugh emojis.
Mm-hmm.
And thank you. I mean, you could be like, well, thank you for putting out the thank you both for writing this and putting this out. And but thank you all for enjoying it and giving those likes, because man, I've been riding that high of that sketch for 2 days.
Yeah.
And how much people just enjoy it.
Yeah. And again, like, we encourage everyone to please support, please like, share, subscribe, anything and everything, because this whole episode actually originally started with, we wanted to talk about social media suppression and the fact that algorithms are suppressing certain kind of left-leaning content, and unfortunately, because you can't prove that, because the whole TikTok algorithm and a lot of these algorithms are top secret,
they'll just tell you be funnier or do better,
but you can see it, right? Like, if people have a really big following and their like count on certain type of content is low, it's probably being suppressed. I just feel like that's an educated guess, right? So again,
please share,
like, subscribe,
engage
follow
with the content when you see it.
Yeah, because again, it's on all of us to share information, and it's on all of us to ensure that we're all educated. So it's the community that we're trying to build with you guys. So
yeah, absolutely. And we hope we keep building this community, and we build this community 1 week at a time. We'll see you next week. Hey, if you like the way we're doing this, asking a vital question and presenting you with the facts and then helping you lead to it, let us know. We're changing the format because we're trying to figure out what is the best way to give people information and not try to overwhelm them. So leave us any comments that you think about the show, what you would like to see from the show, and just anything that you would like to see us present on the show.
Yep.
All right. That's everything. Hey, co-host, you have a great week.
Thanks.
I'll see you next week.
See you
Bye-bye.
next week. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.